Welcome to Inside Auto Podcast, where we feature everyone and anyone you'd want to talk to in and out of the automotive industry.
Ilana Shapta here with Aaron Horowitz, co-hosts of Inside Auto Podcast, where we interview top dealers, GMs, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders in and out of the automotive industry. And before we introduce today's guest, this episode is sponsored by AutoLeadStar.com. The AutoLeadStar platform is built on a technology so powerful, it allows you to market, sell, and service cars as you would in the real world, online and at scale, making one-to-one matches between shoppers and inventory. AutoLeadStar is the only platform that is powered by scale, speed, and specificity to change the way dealers are doing marketing. Aaron, how are you doing today?
I am well. Here we are. How are you, Ilana?
I'm good. Welcome to season 2.
Season 2 is going strong, and it could not be stronger with our Legends episode, right? We are here with 2 legends.
Yes.
And we're very excited.
The legendary episode, yes.
Yes, they were known for a while here as the Quirk Boys, but they've since grown up, apparently. That was probably 5-6 years ago.
The Quirk Men.
The Quirk Men, the serious men. We have here Sean Western. Sean has been at Quirk for about 10 years, leading the marketing department and really building out the whole digital operation. He was joined 5 years ago, and I actually realize now, probably right when we met him, Brandon had just joined Quirk by Brandon Sweeney. And Brandon has brought his own unique perspective on marketing to everything having to do with outbound, really trying to systematize a lot of the digital that they're doing. And together they form a team with quite a few others at Quirk who've turned Quirk into just a marketing powerhouse in every dimension. So Brandon and Sean, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Very, very nice. So guys, give us a quick word on how you're doing right now. Give us the status check on the dealership, on the group. Are all the stores open? Are things happening? Where are we at right now as we push into these cold months here with January and February coming up?
Yeah, so all the stores they're open. Obviously, we're adhering to all the state's guidelines as far as keeping sales staff, service staff, and our customers safe. Again, it's a little tough just with inventory allocation, but that just means we're pushing used vehicles and service as much as possible. Luckily, being in the Northeast, we haven't been hit with too much snow because that's the one thing that is always pretty tricky is when a big snowstorm comes and then it's all hands on deck. But the weather's kind of been on our side. And we're just rolling through the winter months here.
And Sean, I wanted to ask you, when I think about Quirk, and we work with Quirk, so we have a lot of just historical kind of experience with Quirk. I think about this quote that I saw from Mr. Quirk back in 2009. There was an interview of him in a local publication, and when someone asked him, the interviewer, they said, what have you learned in your decades of being a business owner? He had a quote that I really liked. He said, I've learned that if you don't change on a regular basis, then the parade will pass you by. Every day is exciting. Every day has its challenges and changes. You have to make decisions. It's a lot of fun. When I read that quote, I was like, oh, that explains so much about kind of our experience with Quirk. And if I look at you guys and the way you market, it seems like you're all about kind of experimentation, evolution, lack of fear to just jump into something and test something different. Was that the case when you showed up 10 years ago, or is that kind of emerged as you've been there over the past 10 years?
Yeah, so literally we have a wooden sign in our conference room where we meet every Tuesday that says, don't be afraid of change, be afraid of not changing. And that's kind of the attitude that we've always had, is that things are constantly changing. We always need to adapt, optimize, overcome any sort of obstacle. And that's how we've always been. Since, I've been introduced to Quirk, it's been a new adventure, from basically going from agencies to creating an in-house marketing team. So we were constantly looking for, something new, something different. The last thing, I want to hear is when someone, a vendor comes to me and says, hey, we've been doing this for X, Y, and Z. We've been doing it for the last 10 years and it works great. And I'm like, okay, but where are we going in the future? Like, we can't keep doing the same thing forever and expect the same results. And just because technology is always changing, the people are changing, the way people shop is changing, just the whole landscape in general. And if we look at like the automotive industry, you know, we can say that technologically we've been kind of, you know, been far behind. We've been kind of like, you know, sheltered in the past, where you look at, you know, other industries and what is going on with them and the integrations that they have with certain technologies. You're like, why doesn't the automotive industry have this? Why are we kind of pigeonholed ourselves, you know, into using, you know, kind of outdated technology?
John, were you in auto before you joined Quirk?
No, I was not in automotive. And I think that's, you know, one of the great things here at Quirk is, you know, old habits are hard to break. So, you know, whether it's from, you know, our call center, you know, BDC to marketing, we don't necessarily look to bring on board people that have automotive experience. Just because, you know, the way the mold was set doesn't necessarily mean that's the best method for the future.
Right.
Especially, you know, like with the BDCs and call centers, like there was a way that things, you know, had set up and people had, you know, almost ascended themselves in certain positions where really, you know, their goal is to make appointments, and you don't need an automotive background necessarily to set appointments.
Right.
And when it comes to marketing, you know, you may have done, you know, this at XYZ dealer, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work or be beneficial, you know, for the future.
And so, Brandon, when I think of you, I think very much of like technical marketing, meaning very data driven, very methodical. Before you were at Quirk, were you in automotive? And tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you come to Quirk, and from where?
Yeah, so I actually came from a healthcare background. Was a small company and basically just didn't have the tools and technology that I was kind of looking for, I guess. So when I first came to Quirk, you know, Sean right off the bat kind of had the MO of, hey, you know, we're very different than the dealership next door, and that was kind of the mentality that he kind of drove home for me, where it's like when I'm coming into something new, the first thing I want to do is research what everyone else is doing in the market. And that couldn't have been more different than what Sean's MO is. And he kind of wrapped it up there perfectly, where it's, hey, let's not look at what other dealerships have been doing, because, you know, most of these people are stuck on, you know, traditional media, traditional markets. And let's focus on what all these other large companies are doing. You know what I mean? What's the big picture here? And how do we incorporate that technology with us? And that's pretty much been the same MO for the last 5 years. And you're right, we have done a lot of experimenting, and that's one of the most exciting parts of my job. And that's one of the most things like I look forward to every day coming in. So it's nice having the owner share that same mindset, and definitely help build a team to kind of get to that goal.
How quickly did that become clear for you when you came into the organization? Like, were you aware of that even in the hiring process?
Yeah, I mean, pretty right off the bat. Sean hired me, and with the with the note of saying, hey, you know, we're going to rebuild the New Hampshire office. You know, it's going to be a very small team, but we're going to build it out and kind of, you know, get it to where I want to be. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty straightforward right off the bat, and he kind of kept his word on that, and at no point was I ever like, yeah, you know, this is what it is. This is what we knew we were getting into, and it's been a ride ever since. So it's great stuff.
What's the structure of your things? What's the structure of your internal in-house marketing team there?
So we have, you know, basically we share a large office, socially distanced, of course. But no, it's a very nice collaborative environment. Everybody has their own essentially like roles. So, you know, we have you know, like the email team. We have, you know, social media content. We have parts and service. We, you know, SEM. You know, programmatic display, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, we're all in the same room, so we can always. If we need an all hands on deck thing, everybody can, you know, can jump in and work on the same thing. So everybody has their kind of specialties, but everybody is pretty well versed. So that way, you know, if we have, you know, there's an inventory issue, you know, somebody can jump in from the content team and, you know, push a new feed. Or also we bounce ideas off each other, like, hey, can we post this meme about, she shanties because, Elon Musk tweeted it, and we're like, yeah, well, maybe we can make it work, but no, it's good that way we can bounce things off each other, especially because like the people in the department, it's crazy. You have like your old school GM, Chevy truck, fan, all the way to, then you have like, the Subaru clique. Brandon has his Ram and his Audi. So you get a lot of different perspectives, which is nice.
Yeah. But you have every person works on all the stores, so it's not split by stores or by state.
Correct. Yeah. So everybody works on all the stores. Yeah. At one time, and this is again from experiments, from trying different things. We did try to essentially say like, all right, you're gonna grab all the GM stores, you're gonna grab the FCA stores, you're gonna do this, but it doesn't really always work, especially because you have people doing too many different things, and there becomes more variables. And obviously, being data driven, we want to figure out, okay, what can we make work, and can we scale this, across the auto group? So we have tried that, but we found it doesn't really work for us.
And one of the things I've noticed about Quirk over the years is that it seems like decision making has been pushed out to the edges. Meaning you have the ability to make a decision that maybe in other dealer groups it would require like layers of approval. And there's something about that actually reminds me of like experiences I've had in certain contexts, even in some interesting military units and stuff, where like they want the further out you push decision making, it allows for kind of an organic operation that just it moves forward without having to centrally control everything. There's alignment, but there isn't forced control. Is that a culture that emerged? Is that inherent in Quirk? Is that only in the marketing department? Like, where does that come from?
So that's definitely a company-wide, type of culture. Basically, if you are the manager of your department, you have the ability to make a decision. And as a director, my job is to also stand by, my managers that make decisions. Sometimes is it always the right decision? No, but you empower your employees and your managers to make decisions. So there's sometimes you got to make a snap decision, whether you're a service manager, or a sales manager. But if you're not given the ability to make decisions, then you are really not kind of managing. So that's kind of the mentality that Mr. Quirk is always passed down. He empowers us to be able to make decisions. And yes, obviously we don't want to make mistakes, but to essentially to not to decide is to decide. And you don't want to you don't want to be on the wrong side of that.
Very nice. I like that. That's a good one. Ilana, we've been talking about coming up with hotter titles for our episodes. We could do something
we could take that.
We could do something.
To not decide is to decide.
Decision is a decision. Whatever. I like it. And then Brandon, when it comes to you, like I think when you came in, and I think in general over the past 5 years, we've seen like massive transformation in MarTech overall out there in the world. Has any of that influenced you, or is there something that you're looking at now, maybe even for the next few years, is like maybe the next year, the thing that you're most excited or interested in, something you're like, poking at that isn't necessarily fully onboarded yet? Where does your mind go? People talk about lots of different things that are out there. Obviously, there's a lot of hype now about video, OTT, stuff like that. But is there something that you're particularly interested in? I think bringing that kind of forward-facing technology orientation to the group.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just started the conversation right there with OTT. That's something where, when I first started 5 years ago, it was dynamic websites, like responsive websites, and that was already been well established and whatever.
Wow,
so now it's like
crazy. That was 5 years ago. Dynamic
exactly. So it's like now you're seeing people in the automotive industry kind of like XYZ company, which has no business being in OTT, is now like coming at us with OTT, proposals, and you're like, what? Wait, when did you get into this? And it's like that's kind of like been our our new tech, I guess, over the last year or two, and it's been doing great. And we kind of, have developed a great, relationship with some good people to kind of keep that going. So it's funny to kind of see that trend and kind of do that stuff where now we're established and you see all these new companies try to come in and pitch ideas. And it was nice that we got in on the ground floor. But as far as moving forward goes, AI, I mean, anything that's kind of dynamically interacting or just having the machine learning and having the computer kind of like take control for a minute and just see things that we can't necessarily see. And that's kind of all on the data level. Working with you guys has been a huge bonus for us, just to kind of capture that technology at an early age, where it definitely is prominent with other companies and other industries. But for the automotive, it's like we're on the ground floor with that. So I know we just started scraping the surface as far as what those capabilities are. And in the future, I mean, in the next couple of years, it's going to be awesome. I'm genuinely looking forward to some of the things that you and Ito and Eliav have like come out with. And it's just like the ability to throw some of those ideas at us, like the next year or two, I think is going to be a very like monumental, especially with some of the dynamic email campaigns we were talking about, to just be able to get right in front of somebody's face the moment that the engagement should happen. Not that like when you're trying to make it happen, but like when it should happen. And that's definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Let me ask you, while we're talking kind of future tech, this is outside of the marketing realm probably, but there's a lot, I know some of your kind of areas of expertise outside of auto, and there's been a lot of buzz and hype about, how blockchain could impact the industry. And I know out of Cleveland, there is a dealer, I don't know if he's a dealer anymore, I think he sold his stores, Bernie Moreno, who I think was for a while in Boston, maybe at Herb Chambers or something like that. But he anyways is, he's built out like this whole blockchain thing in Cleveland, Ohio. And I know they had some conferences even on the concepts of automotive stuff. Do you actually see blockchain, or have you ever thought about whether there's really an application that's realistic, or is that not? Do you not see where that is? It's not full. You don't necessarily see the path there. Just out of curiosity. And Sean, if you have a comment about this, you're welcome to as well. I just know Brandon thinks about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a path. I mean, the things that blockchain are doing just with the movement of data is incredible. So I think there's an application for everything and anything. Is it right now? I don't really know. A lot of that stuff is generally new, where it's gaining traction. Obviously, a lot of the financial side of it is where most of my expertise is, but the technology side, it's crazy. Do I see an application for it? Definitely. I don't think it's there yet.
It seems to me that if you can actually build infrastructure to bring things in from outside the off the chain and bring it in a reliable way, you suddenly open up those opportunities for for automotive and I don't know, whatever vehicle history, stuff like that. That whole infrastructure that's coming to life now around the oracles and stuff could be interesting for automotive as well. And I'm sure there are startups in that space. I don't happen to know any of them. Yeah, just not my space, but it is interesting.
Yeah, for sure. That Cleveland dealership, I'll definitely have to take a look at that.
I think it's called dealerships. Let me.
I think they sold, maybe, right?
I think they sold.
Maybe he held on to just the Mercedes-Benz store.
Maybe he did, but what was so crazy? So this is a crazy story. Maybe we'll bring him on, Ilana. We should bring him on the pod. We'll bring him on. We'll bring Brandon on too, just to kind of talk a little blockchain. But basically, he's this a really interesting dealer. I mean, really savvy guy. And I met this professor in Cleveland when I went back to visit my mother. Someone told me about him, and I talked to him a couple of years ago, and he was a blockchain guy. Turns out. So at some point when I realized this dealer was interested, I connected this professor and this car dealer owner. And next thing I know, he's coming to Tel Aviv, running a conference in Tel Aviv with a lot of like people from really interesting places in the security services on blockchain. So I went to this conference. It was the most insane thing ever. It was like a whole like Cleveland, Tel Aviv, blockchain. I was like, what is going on here?
Sounds like Brandon's dream.
Introduction like 2-3 years.
True.
What?
It sounds like Brandon's dream come true.
Oh yeah, I mean it was pretty exciting.
Blockchain conference in Israel.
Yeah, I mean we definitely got to make a trip out there for sure.
Yeah,
and that would be a bonus.
Yeah, it's gonna happen for sure. We have to do that. So let me ask you guys, and then Ilana, for to jump in. We met you guys at Digital Dealer circa a long time ago. And what I wonder is, I feel like there in those days, like I think of it as these like the halcyon days of like innovation and things were exciting. You guys were like into it. You were into the conferences a little bit, and I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, something is like paled over the past few years. And it may just be because I've been in the industry now and I'm like all the rush of excitement that I had in those early days isn't there, or maybe we're in a little bit of a pause on innovation, but it doesn't seem to me like you guys have the same enthusiasm at conferences necessarily as there was. And I'm wondering if there's truth to that, or if you are actually re-upped and energized on that. You know, either of you would love to hear what you think about that. But are you seeing stuff out there now that's exciting you? Do you find this, you know, this moment to be interesting, or are you guys kind of in a standoff and, you know, look from afar kind of position, or are you finding your innovation elsewhere? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so like 5 years ago when we went to Digital Dealer, you know, it definitely was. It was a very, you know, interesting, you know, exciting. There was a lot of enthusiasm. I just remember meeting you guys and just being like, man, these are the worst T-shirts I've ever seen in my life. You know,
They made us famous.
Leads deals, okay?
I just gave compliments to the guy who designed them. He's at Wix. Have you guys ever heard of Wix?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Wix is an Israeli company. He was our designer when he was in grad school, and now he like went and became a bigwig at Wix. So I was like, those were the ugliest T-shirts that got us the most attention ever. You know,
they were great T-shirts. Brandon still wears it like every day.
I still have it actually.
I
kept
wear it
it,
all
like
the
put
time.
it away.
The baseball sleeves, and they were awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, as soon as you guys rebranded, I just burned mine. I was like, I gotta get rid of it.
You burned it.
It's funny because we rebranded that shirt too. We're like, oh, we're changing our colors. The shirt's coming with us until finally we said goodbye.
So Sean, continue.
So yeah, one of the main issues that I had at the time was, I'm like, man, I want to show offers to our users, basically show the right offer at the right time, and I want to do it based on, you know, their behavior online. And trying to do it rule based became so complicated and so messy. And I was like, you know what, I'm done. Like, because I don't want it just to be like, oh, they hit a page with a Chevy Silverado, show them a Chevy Silverado. You know, I want it to be obviously a little bit more intricate and complicated than that. When we met you guys actually, you know, that was kind of like the technology that you had at the time. And I'm like, perfect. You know, machine learning, you know, AI, you know, showing these dynamic offers, you know, to our user base. I'm like, that's what I wanted to do. And it was too messy to do it, you know, rule based. And that's why we're like, yeah, let's sign up 3 stores today. Let's do it right now. And, you know, going to the conferences and everything, and seeing what was out there, it was definitely helpful, you know, for us at the time. But then we noticed kind of, you know, over the years that we've evolved as marketers, and a lot of the, at least, you know, some of the sessions, some of the technology had kind of stayed a little bit stagnant, where obviously, like, you know, if you're on the forums, everything, every year there's a new buzzword, you know, whether, you know, it was, you know, digital retailing, you know, then it was, you know, machine learning, attribution, you know, OTT now. So for us, it was kind of like, I don't want to keep going to the same, you know, essentially like, you know, seminars and sessions where we're going to kind of cover, you know, so much. You know, we wanted, you know, we've gone to other marketing conventions that aren't just automotive, other digital, and we're like, awesome, we got the person from Microsoft here. We're going to go learn, you know, we're going to dive into this. And then all of a sudden it was like surface level, you know, oh, we got the Facebook, perfect. They're going to tell us, you know, we're going to learn something, you know, new. And it's like, here's lookalike audiences. We're like, okay, you know, so that kind of forced us like, all right, let's go and look and, you know, let's look for something different. You know, let's try to find, you know, that's when we started doing, you know, OTT. You know, we started getting into that, you know, real early, and we just started looking at different things, and we started, you know, running our own experiments. but yeah, I guess I would say that, coming into the industry, like whether you're a vendor, you're new to automotive digital marketing, to kind of see what everyone else is doing and to kind of get a good foundation. The conferences like Digital Dealer are great, but I wish there was almost like, it's great digital marketing auto, 101. We want to get to the stage 2 and go beyond that. And that's kind of, where we're at now, at least.
Yeah, we really need like a real growth hacker type of conference, type of community in auto. I think there are growth hackers in auto who know the inside tricks and want to get better and better, but it's not as common. I hear that. Brandon, do you have the same experience?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I just think one thing, is whenever you look at tech, you always see like it comes in waves. You know what I mean? It's like most of the time it's not really gradual. It's like, hey, one huge thing just came out, and now everything is going to kind of feed off that new tech and kind of continuously build off that. And then there's kind of like a lull moment, and then it will peak back up. I know one of the biggest things this year was like, for 2020 was like the express checkout tech. You know what I mean? Like who's got what to kind of like seamlessly deliver vehicles where the person doesn't have to leave their car. And it's, years ago, Carvana was kind of like, they'll never make it. They'll never do anything with that. And then to kind of see how you have all these companies now like pushing out everything and anything that they can to kind of like feed off that necessity of almost just removing the salesman essentially and removing that dealership experience. So I think, last year with all things considered, we kind of saw old tech rise up based on situations, but it wasn't necessarily new technology.
Right.
Carvana was around, I think, when I started or started coming, so 5 years ago. So you kind of saw like a revival of tech, but it wasn't necessarily new tech. So maybe that's kind of where your head is, where like you had that huge peak in excitement of like all these things kind of hitting, because I mean, for responsive websites to be the new thing in automotive at that time was not really new.
That's
so
unbelievable to think about that.
And you guys,
but I actually remember that.
People talk about that all the time because like a lot of vendors did not have.
I remember we were like at the conference and they were asking us if we were mobile friendly, and we were like, what do you mean? Like,
which is almost like a joke to anyone in the marketing field. It's like, wait a second, what? Like there's plug and play websites that have this. It's like, what do you mean?
Look, we still have vendors in our industry, not to be named, that have broken, CSS in their templates on their desktop websites that create forms that freeze the site, and like, you don't know where to X out. I mean, all sorts of weird stuff that we see that we try to communicate to those folks to try to get them to fix it. But I still think auto, unfortunately, in some areas is suffering the weight of its history, which was essentially to evolve out of really early age tech without the pressures of the competitive marketplaces outside of auto that forced those companies to become extremely, extremely effective. And even there, you see sort of a fading of some, right? And there was that like Web 2.0 moment where everyone was using Unbounce to build their landing pages. I don't really know if that's as popular as like all the new gen stuff that came. And I think it's natural to see that, that evolution. Some companies manage to go for a decade. Some are unbelievable. They can even go for 2 decades now, like Salesforce, largely through acquisitions and just being really, really good. But there are kind of like classes of tech that fade, and auto is coming up to speed. From a pretty deep hole. So
yeah.
I'm not one of those people who thinks, I mean, auto's so amazing, right? Because it's so complicated. So it's not like you can just go, meaning people rip on auto tech, but I'm extremely impressed with auto tech. I mean, it's amazing that this industry was running on, look at what Reynolds did, right? Reynolds, who, I don't know how big their fan club is, right? But like, what an amazing company. Founded in the 1860s, 30s. I don't know, like when people were like still going places with horses and buggies. I mean, think about how they evolved, and then think about what they facilitated when it came to automotive. It's an unbelievable story. If there's not a book on it, someone should write it. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like I enjoyed going to conferences. Like that experience, just the kind of the collaboration of minds was awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to go to something that was that new tech and new feel and so on, obviously when things get back to normal a little bit, but like I would love to do that. And I think you're right. It does need to catch up, and someone does need to come up with something that's more of like the cutting edge rather than like, hey, let's wrap up what we've been doing. So
we should build it out in the U.S. and then every other year until we do it in Israel.
We should totally do it.
Advance class come in and okay, this is great. This has been great. So good. So we will maybe see you at a conference again, or we'll see you in the cold northern snows, or
New
when it gets warm.
Hampshire. The only reason I'll ever go to New Hampshire, Quirk Kia.
Where else would you go in New Hampshire? I mean, that's where you want to go, right?
Where else I would go?
Make that right.
The mountain's so nice. You'd love it up there.
Yeah.
It doesn't compare to the Kia dealership, though. Kia dealership's great.
Yeah, the Kia dealership is really
John's like, stick with the Kia. Forget the mountains. Wait, do you go to the mountains? Is that like a common thing?
Yeah, I mean, New Hampshire's one of those places. It's like you get the foliage and all that stuff like in the fall. So everyone loves making those drives up to the Adirondacks, or what am I thinking, Kangamangas, in kind of North Conway area and all that stuff. You get fleets and like trains of cars that are going up there checking that stuff out. So yeah, it's cool.
Very nice.
The drive's great in a new K5 too. Like, and we have plenty of them. So if you want to stop by Manchester on your way up, to the mountains, we can definitely help you out.
Can we just buy a virtual car from you? I mean, like, why not? Let's just make it like, we'll just deliver it. Just deliver it here.
Yeah, we have the tech.
A lot of in Miami. We just send it down south. I mean,
I actually asked Sean at one point if they would deliver a car to Connecticut, because my mother was trying to get a new car, and everyone was like ripping her off, and I was like, no, forget it. You got to go to Quirk. And so
could you?
They could. Yeah, you said you could, right?
Yeah. Now we can. I mean, and we're obviously with used vehicles, we're making that big push to really deliver way outside of our local radius.
Yeah.
Did you deliver to Ohio? Because is that too crazy? I was telling my mother, it was like my mother is looking to get a car, and I was like, I know all these like car dealers in the United States, all of whom will give you an honest, good car, but. And now actually we have some Ohio customers, so I have to actually look at that. But it's frustrating. The regional limitations are driving us out. Like, we find it extremely frustrating. It is, we've talked about, and we have some conversations going on that front, which we've been working on for the past couple of days. It's extremely frustrating to have high quality regional groups that have significant logistical capabilities feel limited by radius and by those sorts of things, because like it doesn't really make sense necessarily in this day and age. Obviously. It's complicated because fulfillment. I mean, that's why Carvana is so amazing, and and what Vroom has done to a certain extent. Like, their ability to fulfill and pull that off is amazing. The logistics are amazing, but that's kind of, there's logistics as a service these days that are pretty sufficient to deliver a car the last mile to someone's house. I mean, and figure out what you need to do for the paperwork, but to be discussed in a future discussion. Guys, this is fun. This is great. It really we require an in-person though, Ilana. I think that's what we have to facilitate.
I'm telling you, New Hampshire, Manchester, I'm coming.
When I think of Quirk, I think of like this gigantic like cannon that like you just aim your marketing at something. Like, the reason people should be studying Quirk is that it operates at a massive scale, and it moves fast at a massive scale. So when you have I know it's like in football, like a really, really, really huge person who can move way faster than a huge person should be able to move. You get that type of effect, and I think that's a really cool thing to see. We enjoy seeing it up close, and I hope you guys are sharing your wisdom here and there in outside your region. So because it's definitely interesting. All right, so that's great. Ilana, should we wrap this?
We should wrap it. Thank you so much to
Brandon. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
It was really fun, and we miss you guys, so I'm glad we got an opportunity to do a podcast together. And to our listeners, if you like this episode, Inside Auto Podcast, I love that. That's the best way to end a podcast.
I need one of those. I need one of those so badly. That's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
In the Quirk green, I love it.
Yeah, that's great. Cool.
See, we still have some old school traditional marketing talk, like technology.
Yeah, right there.
We keep it around.
Yeah. I love it. Great. Yeah.
We need one of those in our office.
Yeah. I've seen those on websites. Some people have like little side widgets of those things, but they love them so much,
Yeah, you get a little desk one now.
I mean, those are historic. Those things are amazing. Like, that's a collector's item. I mean,
It is a collector's item. It's true. Well, thank you guys so much.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Subscriber. Tell people where to go.
Inside Auto Podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, really any mainstream podcast site you can tune in.
And you can check it out on our website, autoleaser.com/
podcast or insideautopodcast.com.
And there's some amazing content coming up. Nothing this legendary, but hopefully we'll keep you guys interested. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Sean. Good luck, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to Inside Auto Podcast. Check out our other episodes with top entrepreneurs and industry leaders.